Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Open Network User Group podcast. I'm Mark Tierney. I'm ONUG's CTO. Today, we continue with the ONUG C-Level series, driving the hyperautomation narrative through collaboration. Before we get to that, though, and before we get to our important guests, listen up. ONUG Spring 2023, it's going to be a hybrid event. It feels like we just wrapped up fall, and fall was a great event. We're going to be in Dallas in the spring, May 17th and 18th. I think we're going to be at Union Station, but more to come on that. But keep an eye out for it on onug.net. And there you'll be able to join the ONUG community of Global 2000 companies, enterprise architects, cloud providers, and thought leaders as we demonstrate the tenets of multi-cloud. You go to onug.net to register for the event. You can use the promo code Mark's Podcast, and we give you 30% discount off that. All right. So with that, help me welcome Raj Nair. Raj is the founder and CEO at Avesha. Raj, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mark, and welcome everybody. It's great to be here on this podcast. So I just wanted to
So Raj, I'm going to come right at you, right? So I asked Raj in pre-show to tell the audience a little bit about himself, but Raj, I also want to point out you're a relatively new member to the ONUG Collaborative.
Yes.
And, I just kind of want to give you a little shout out about that because you bring an awful lot of thought leadership to what we're doing in, the orchestration automation space and now what we're calling hyperautomation. So, with that, brief intro, help the audience understand a little bit about, where you came from and how you got here. So tell us about Raj.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mark. So, this for me, I'm entrepreneur at heart. So this is my third company. And in fact, 20 years ago or so, that was my first journey into entrepreneurship. And I had a company called ArrowPoint. And it was a great company, great success. We built one of the first load balancers for the web that was just taking off at that time. And it was a great success. We are the first ones that actually looked at HTTP while it's in the, it was a network device. So we'd actually look at HTTP and then route the traffic based on HTTP headers. So that was a big innovation for those days. And it helped scale a lot of the web. And, we were very happy to be part of that. And it was later on, it IPO'd and was bought by Cisco for about $6 billion. So it was a great success, and which led me on to doing more in this space. And I had another company in the media, in the OTT streaming space, and then this is my third. And what I found, the opportunity that I found here was that there is a growing need for automation because of the complexity that's happening in the space, particularly with the cloud and with people wanting to have a hybrid type of deployment and people wanting to have different kinds of applications that are more responsive, that have, again, workloads that are in different locations. How do you automate? How do you make the networking part of that disappear, and make it easy for people to essentially collaborate on a distributed infrastructure? And that was the starting point of the journey. And then there are a lot of things that we've discovered and were able to bring value and help our customers. And at the end of the day, the whole idea is to bring automation into this space and make it much easier from an end user standpoint to be able to gain the benefits of a infrastructure like this, which is literally, you can have workloads running anywhere you want and at any time, and catering to different business needs. And it should be simple without having to know all the nitty-gritty of what's going on underneath. And that's our starting.
Yeah, so let me stop you there because I'm definitely going to give you time at the end. We'll kind of dig into a little bit about what you do at Avesha, but really what I'm interested in here initially is, from your executive, vantage point, and what we've been discussing in this C-Level series with other CEOs and founders like yourself is, what is happening in the space in general. And Gartner, as you know, like kind of drops this term, and like they often do, some new term, hits the marketplace, and I like to say, then it sets off a almost predictable set of actions that happen. Suddenly now suppliers feel like they need to close a particular gap on a feature functionality that they may or may not already have. And likewise though, and somebody comes from the enterprise consumer community, the same thing kind of happens. All of a sudden now the CIO and CTO of organizations want to know, what are we doing in this? Like what are we doing in the hyper automation space, and why not? And what's everyone else doing, right? So I want to start with you there a little bit in just with the introduction of this hyper automation term. Let's sort of sift through it from your perspective, and what should that mean for the enterprise consumer. You're previously, the working group that you joined as part of the ONUG collaborative was the orchestration and automation team. But really, it goes much deeper than that now, right? There's more to it than just pushing the right buttons and making things happen. It seems like there's a much richer story. So, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about your views on this whole concept of hyperautomation.
Yeah, that's a great question. In fact, for what I see is automation. That's stuff that you take for granted now. I mean, almost everything is like that. But hyper automation brings that smartness. It's a level above automation. It's where you can use modern technologies like AI, which have matured. The AI, 10 years ago, it was a fad. And now it's matured to a point that you can start applying it. And I look at this as a way to use AI as an assist. So whether it is RPA, where you're using AI to help you, in your, where practically, a very manual task, but you can now automate this with AI, and it can help you with that workflows. Well, the same way, with infrastructure, and with infrastructure, you can now use AI ops, and that will essentially help you bring that automation to a point where it's literally like a human doing it. It's just that it is the machine that's doing it. The beauty of that is, first of all, you can avoid human errors, right? Because it's a machine that's doing this, and so your productivity is going to improve, and then you get benefits of the improvements in the technology. So it keeps getting better, and you can achieve better productivity, lower costs, because now a lot of people have challenges finding the right talent, because there's so many things that are coming at you. So you really need technologies that can do some of the work literally without having human there. So that is my definition of hyperautomation, is a kind of automation that literally helps you, manage, your work with a reduced staff, because you just can't get those people. So
Right.
But that shouldn't hamper your productivity.
So let me
look at it.
Let me ask you a question about who's equipped to do these sorts of things. Like I have it's a tyrannyism, I know, but it's I call, there's a lot of enterprises out there, I call them enterprises with baggage, right? They're just not moving. They're not moving the ball down the field like they should in some of these newer technology, whether it's cloud, even if it's process oriented, like they're becoming an agile organization. Am I adopting hyper automation? In some cases, I feel like there are enterprises who are, ill-equipped, either technically or culturally, right, to understand where they need to be moving. So I'm wondering from your vantage point, do you see do you see organizations having, are there some common threads for, again, the CIO at enterprises that are barriers to them in adopting these technologies? You get a sense of that, or are you getting a sense of that?
Yeah. I mean, there is for example, there is some fear, that, oh, my people may not know this technology. They have to come up to speed, and I need to invest a lot of time and training into that. And then, soon there'll be another fad that comes, and I'm not ready to do that. Now, the interesting thing about hyperautomation is if it's done right, your guys would not have to do anything. It's made to be consumed, and there's a company behind it. There's somebody who says, look, use this technology. You don't need to learn anything. It'll just assist you, and it'll just do some portion of your job that you don't need to think that much about anymore. And that has been consuming, is particularly, stuff that are very time consuming, that you want. If I can take that off your plate, why wouldn't you do that, right? But to your point, there is still that fear, the fear of, do I need to change a lot? That is hampering, in my opinion, the adoption of some of these. But I think it's important for people to start getting over that, particularly because some of these technologies we're talking about, AI, and so on, they are mature. All the big cloud guys, they are all using it. Actually, that's
Right.
how they have achieved their scale. Why
So,
can't?
so the only way to combat the trepidation, whether it's,
Yeah,
personal, cultural, technical, whatever, is you've got to be staring the business value
yeah,
of doing these things right in the face, right? It better be clear,
exactly.
right? Because more than likely you're going to have to go get funding to get it done,
Yes.
right? So you better be able to tell
Uh,
a good business value story to make that happen. So what is, in your view, what is the, I don't know, top, you know, 2, 3 business value bullet points that you think the membership should be thinking about? So when, like, all right, maybe I used to be a VP, and so then I got to go talk to the SVP, right? Or the SVP's got to go talk to the CTO or CIO. Like, what is that story that I'm going to take upstream to sell the business value of hyperautomation to the executive team? What is that in your
I
viewpoint?
think it's a very simple one, right? It is first and foremost, do I want to move faster and get more work done in a given amount of time? And I, I can I can clearly appeal to that value, because you literally can do that. That is like, instead of having
Time to market.
time to market, instead of having a bunch of tickets sitting in the queue for in my service now or whatever it is, to go and take care
Hmm.
of all these IT tasks. I have this tool now that just blows them away, and now all of a sudden my developers are happy because they wanted to deploy these workloads in some locations to meet some, let's say, regional data compliance. All of a sudden they can get going with that. And now your access to that market is, what would have taken you 3 months, it's done in a week, and you're good to go. I mean, this is the kind of velocity that you can start seeing. The other area which sort of goes along with this is, I don't need to now go, and if I don't have people, to go look around to hire people, who knows networking, whatever it is, or and then I don't find them. And furthermore, even if I find them, I may have to pay a lot of money. I can save money with this. I can it's one less headcount, or one or two less headcount, and at the same time I'm running faster. I'm up and running quickly. I think that's the biggest value I see. And and if it's again done right, if it's an infrastructure level hyper automation, it will rise all the boats, right? Because everybody benefits from that, because it's across the board. And that's a big value, right? It's not just limited to one particular department. And that
Yeah,
I
so I'm
think,
not sure. Let me. So we've got time to market, cost reduction. I want to understand what you're saying here about the rising tide lifts all boats. So what you're help me understand that a little better. What are you trying to say that if I'm implementing hyperautomation in one particular area, it's going to help other groups too? Uh,
well, yeah, the
to paint
infrastructure.
that picture for me a little more clearly, if you don't
Yeah.
mind.
Because the platform teams in most places, they are responsible for all of the org, right? And so uh, and when you have hyperautomation introduced in their tool set, now what you're saying is I'm actually automating this portion of their work, which is work that affects all of the infrastructure. So now if I have to do certain things, let's say with the network, now anyone can do that, not just one particular department. It can be the finance department, it can be sales department. They all have access to those same set of tools, and they'll all go much faster. So it's more ROI when you apply it to that platform team and to that, because everybody benefits from improvements in the infrastructure automation. The infrastructure velocity increases, and that's a key aspect for that helps everybody.
Okay, and the audience knows I am an infrastructure person. I get that. But hyper automation isn't just limited to infrastructure,
No,
right? So the initial point is you're going to impact time to market because you're going to stand up infrastructure more effectively, more efficiently, more quickly. That's going to help the platform people. That's going to help your software development team do their job. Just hope that they're digitally transforming as well, right? So they can keep up, right? And but are there hyper automation solutions that go beyond just the infrastructure play?
absolutely. I mean, so like RPA is a great example, right? I mean, if you had that implemented properly, you are able to now move a lot of the workflow much faster because uh, literally, it is doing what a human would take weeks to do, but it's just, it's a machine, so you can just work day and night, sort through, a lot of information, and that is going to add to the velocity. But again, that might, even though, that might be limited to a particular group, the fact that, you unblocked because it can go much faster now, particularly if that was a bottleneck, you now allow the benefits of that will be seen by the rest of the organization. So it's not but the reason I brought up infrastructure is because it's obvious, right, that it'll help everybody. So that was the only reason I said that. Yeah.
Okay, is it true? Where do I want to go with this? I think it implies, or it's always implied to me, that you can't do hyper automation. It implies AIML. I guess my question to that is that true? And then are there things that organizations need to have in place, sort of underpinnings, prerequisites, things like that to enable hyper automation? Or to improve the experience of hyperautomation when they adopt it.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that that AI/ML, for example, it's not going to function well unless there is data. So you should have that. Data is like the like water, right?
It's
I mean,
blood, right?
it's blood. So I think we have reached a point. I believe that you can't really run an organization at all if you don't have visibility into how things are going on. And there are a lot of tools that are there, and and it's going to help you even if you didn't have hyper automation. It just if you were just doing it all manually, you really want to know with data about how things are going on, so that you're not getting fooled yourself, right? So that is the final truth of it. So so this is all you're doing with hyper automation is, if you have the data, then you have algorithms that can actually help you with the task. And so that's all you're doing. You're just applying algorithms to that data, and then soon you get the benefits of it. So
Yeah.
it's
So
really
this is where I get hung up, Raj. So I'm talking to a friend of mine not too long ago, and asking them about their AIML story. This guy's an executive at a very large, I'll just say, bank, um, and was asking about his AIML story, and he's like, "Mark, we don't have our data squared away. Like, we've got data everywhere, data lake here, data pond there, data ocean over there. We're just not squared away, right?" And they sort of made a conscious decision that they weren't going to put a ton of energy into AIML, solutions until they squared away their data strategy and data architectures. Um, are you seeing that? Like, is that something that you bump up against out there?
not too much, but I've seen that. I mean, the thing is this, right? I mean, you have to, just like you said before, right? I mean, you have to first of all pick a project that you believe will bring immediate ROI. I mean, anything is like that. So if you can be focused on a particular task that you want to apply hyperautomation to, and then go and look for where that data is, so you have a thesis around it, and a way to address that. Now you can start building on that. So it is, if you can show one success in the org, one success, then it'll start spreading, right? Others can see how you did that, and what you had to do to get there. And that becomes, it's a self whatever, it starts growing on itself. And so that is the approach I would recommend. If you have this enormous amount of data, you don't know where to begin, look at the biggest pain point in your organization, and see what you can do around that. And if you can, then apply hyperautomation to that. That would
All
be
right,
the
so let's dive into that, and I want to take this next question from 2 points of view. I want to know what your experience is in what those use cases, those use cases are. What are you seeing people more likely to do, most likely to do? And then I also want to know what Raj thinks people ought to be doing. Like, so, is there a pet hyper automation thing that you would love to see more organizations do? But let's start with what kind of energy are you seeing from the enterprise consumers that they want to jump into? It feels like low hanging fruit, that they're just starting. What's the bread and butter initial project that you're seeing most often?
Yeah, I mean, my answer is going to be colored by my experience, but
Yeah, no, that's why. Hey, that's why you're here. I want to know
yeah.
what your experience is. Of course,
So,
yeah.
we do see a lot of pain, for example, in the cloud, with cloud costs, and people are struggling with that, and they are looking for solutions of how to tame that, uh, and what ones, and I would even go even to VMs and things. At one point it was something that helped them with cost savings, has now become a cost, a leader. And so the people are struggling with that, particularly given some of the, situation outside the economy and so on. So, that is a real issue. And so, I mean, to answer your question about, what my pet idea would be is,
Yeah.
but so one of the areas where people, like when they go and try to create, yeah, I mean, sorry, but this is what we are doing. So I'm just telling
No,
you,
it's okay. It's okay.
this is our dream. So when they go to create, let's say there's a new project that comes up, and they want to go and create some new environment for that project. What they end up doing is they go and create a whole separate environment, and which is on its own, paying, a separate cluster in Kubernetes or whatever it is, and then uh, the hell with the environment and in the sense how much energy I'm using. I need to get this project done. Let me just do it. So there's a natural tendency to 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 say I'll deal with this, later. But when you do that, what you're perpetuating is just a cluster sprawl, right? You're just going to create more and more and more, and you're going to soon. It's like if you don't keep your house in order, very soon it'll become a pigsty. I mean, you won't know where anything is because it's just a mess. So my, what I'd love to see is people adopt a more, something with hyperautomation in mind, an approach that is more, say, takes into account, like, how I can use my infrastructure better, and can I use a better, say, multi-tenancy solution, that will solve that problem, and then can I apply on top of that, things that would not waste, that will be more proactive. So, for example, there are tools that you can get. We have some where you can look at your traffic, your load, and your traffic patterns, and then accordingly scale up or down your cloud resources. Why would you do that? Well, why do you want to waste energy? Why don't you
Oh,
be,
of course, yeah.
so I'd love to see that happen, because it has a great environmental impact for one thing, but it'll also help you with your costs. Simple. So I mean, that's your pain point. This is a way you can solve that. So you can be conservative on both the clusters that you're spinning up and how you're utilizing it. So from to me, that is something that would immediately impact people. They'll help reduce their cost, and that's the thing that they're worried about. Go for it.
I have to be honest. This fascinates me that people, because your point about sustainability and I don't care what solutions you're using in the cloud. This was the one of the initial the initial selling points was turn the light switch off when you're done. Like when you're done, turn it off. Right. So what you're saying implies to me that there are a lot of organizations out there that are simply not managing
Yeah,
to that initial dream. So that's true. You're seeing that a lot.
absolutely. And I think
Wow.
you should. It's time to think of tools like hyperautomation to help you with that. To help you control that. And it's a really important cause. So, and I think that's there are fads. Metaverse, crypto, all these things. Sustainability is not a fad. It's important. So we all got to
Yeah,
take it seriously.
I mean, for so many reasons, I've so I'm a little shocked, to be honest, that's the case, that people are not turning the light switch off. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, who knew?
Yeah, maybe
Uh,
because at the end, and see this is something that it's just passed on, right? It's a cost that's passed on. Nobody f- there's no f- Nobody feels the need to do that. Of course, now people are looking, when their cloud bills become huge, they're saying, oh, we got to do something. Okay. But you could have started thinking about this.
okay, so and a problem like that is or an opportunity or challenge, however you want to frame it, is if it's this way with a single provider, it's even and I'm talking cloud provider now. It's even more of an issue in a multi-cloud space.
Absolutely.
Are you? What's your sense here? Is the industry and our enterprises ready to tackle this kind of issue on a multi-cloud perspective, where I'm consuming more than one cloud, and and I want to make sure I'm turning the light switch off at one or
That's
more.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think if you don't have that awareness and thought, you will only incur more, uh, proliferation, because you multiplying the problem by the number of clouds that you're going to get into, right? I think it's good to get into multiple clouds for multiple reasons: resiliency, latency, all kinds of reasons, right? But you have to think about at the same time turning the light switch off in the sense, hey, let's see if I can do this efficiently, not in a careless manner, but in a thoughtful way. And that's where the multi-tenancy happens. Can I use this for more than one team in my org? How would I do that? Or can I, use some AI to, make sure that I don't, spin up servers when I don't need to, and I spin them down just because, right? I mean, this is another thing, Mark. Like when they don't have like the support of AI, right? What they do is people don't want to be woken up at night, right? So
Those people just don't know the thrill of being woken up at night, Raj. They don't understand how awesome it is. But
that's right.
all right.
But what they have to do is they over provision, right? So when you over provision, what are you doing? You're just burning the energy, right? If you had AI to help you with that, guess what? You still won't be woken up at night. There's something else looking out for you. And
Of course,
when there's no traffic, it'll go down all the way down. And when it knows that traffic is going to come up, it'll automatically go up. That's why you should have, that's the advantage of having AI, because it's a smart assistant. It is going to alert you. And okay, there are hurdles, by the way. One of the hurdles, Mark, which we didn't talk about, is the trust issue, right? With AI, like people say, hey, how do I know this is going to work? How do I know this is actually going to do what I think it's going to do?
sure.
So there are ways to get around that too. So because at the end of the day, with any new technology, we have that fear, right? That is it going to do what I think ought to do, right? So the way around that is to essentially, you have a period of time where you're observing. So this has feedback to you, through its dashboards and so on. You're looking at it, and you're gaining a level of trust, and that is how and then with AI, of course, you have the factor of that it continuously keeps improving, right? And so again, is it learning in the direction that I think it ought to, and is it
Right.
doing that? So these are things.
Thank you for that, because I tend to worry about doing things that I don't want it to do.
Yeah.
So, but that's always that's just me being me,
No.
Raj,
Look,
That's part of my charm.
no, the way I look at AI is it's like you're training a young employee. You have to watch over them, make sure they're learning and that they're going in the right direction. So so that it's always the case, right?
So in the case of hyperautomation, the other thing that's happening or has been happening, right? I mean, initially we're doing infrastructure services in the cloud, and platform as a service, software as a service in the cloud, but then these things tend to get more granular along the way. Like so we moved to from virtual instances to containers to serverless, and I mean the hypers are going to continue to innovate in this space. So is hyperautomation as a strategy? I guess what I'm wondering is, do we have the right standards? And is our consumers and industry alike going to be able to keep up with the capabilities from your perspective? There's a lot to answer there, so feel free to take any or all of it.
Well, I'll take the last point, first, which is about whether people can deal with it. I mean, if I were to come and tell you that I'm going to give you this tool that will take this burden off your head, I don't think you're going to say, wait, no, I actually want to worry about all these things, constantly. I think you're going to say, show me where, I mean, that's the response I've seen from actual users, and whether it is for the infrastructure space, or even if it is in the area of one of the projects I had worked on, it's a inferencing project, and it was actually to help doctors in their work, and it used RPA. They were more than happy. They actually wanted to see that, because they said, this is going to relieve my, because they have a lot of reporting to do for each case, and the RPA really helped out. It combined actually the NLP and RPA. It was a combined system, but what I saw is they were really thrilled with that. So I don't see the end user not accepting it. If it reduces their work, I mean, you have to, just like anything else, you have to show them that there is actually some value, and once they are convinced with over a period of time, they would start adopting it. I've not seen any problems with that. But as far as the hyper clouds, look, they, I think, are in it obviously, to maximize, their ROI and all that, and so they're already using a lot of this internally. It's just that it's not being surfaced to the end users. But
yeah, I wonder why they don't want you to turn the light switch off, right? But here's the thing, Raj, and this is something that ONUG, to give I tell you what, because we need to start wrapping things up. But I'll give an ONUG commercial before I'll let you give your commercial, right? And that is, until enterprises are they're putting the right kind of pressure to consume multi-cloud. You're not going to see the hypers necessarily, and they're all nice people, but you're not necessarily going to see them doing the kinds of things, innately to, help drive down those costs. When they do, in this particular case with AWS, they're just as likely to charge you for a special service, right, to take advantage of that, functionality, as opposed to making it an innate part of their offering. So that's my I'll leave that as an opinion. So now I'm going to throw it back to you, because I do need to wrap up. So I'm going to give you a couple 3 minutes to chat up Avesha and tell us what you're doing in this space.
Yeah. So the first of all, I'll just add to what you just said.
Sure.
I think I believe, and it is the stated objective, in particular of AWS, to have a smaller carbon footprint, and this will go in that direction, and so I believe they will embrace this. But what we do at Avesha is that we have multiple ways where we can help you with. One is how you can efficiently use your clusters with multi-tenancy, where you don't need to have this cluster sprawl, and so you can have the same number of clusters but share it among multiple teams very effectively. We call that KubeSlice, which is an open source project. Feel free to go look it up in GitHub. The other place where we help you is, as I was saying, this hyperautomation, dealing with your clusters and the auto scaling function of pods. Again, you currently, the only mechanisms is one threshold or something that they have you to set, and then you have to constantly watch that and set it. With us, we look at traffic patterns and continuously, there's a reinforcement learning engine that is continuously increasing or decreasing the number of pods, and all auto-tuned. And the beauty of this is, if you had an application, let's say with say 20 microservices or 10 microservices, there is a separate engine that is going up and down, adjusting the number of pods in each of these, and it's doing all of these engines are coordinating, all done with AI, so they know how to adjust different ones up and down, because applications are complex, right? They consist of lots of services, but the intelligence is in that reinforcement learning engine, which can then overall optimize for you cost, at the same time things like latency or throughput, whatever be your metric that you want, application level metric. So I want to reduce number of faults, I want a lower latency, whatever it is. And the vision that we're working on is to expand, is that to do this exact same thing, but in a multi-cloud, multi-location way, so that you can now move your workloads anywhere you want, and you still get that benefit of being very cost effective. And in your words, turn the light off. So
that's perfect. Thanks, thanks so much for going over that. I appreciate it. It's been a pleasure having you on the ONUG podcast today. Tell everybody how do you want consumers to reach out to you? What's the best way to connect with Avesha?
Reach out to me at raj@avesha.io, and feel free to visit us at avesha.io, avesha.io. So.
All right, that's perfect. Thanks so much. Hey, so everybody out there, again, I'm just going to reiterate, Raj and actually a couple members of his team, since they've joined the ONUG collaborative, have just brought a bunch of, thought leadership, push each other. And so this is the point. This is the part where I tell you, join the collaborative, get involved with ONUG, get around these smart minds that are helping to develop, really the standards of where we're going. And this team, the Hyperautomation team in particular, we've got a lot of collateral coming your way. I think we just dropped a blog yesterday from the Hyperautomation team. I think Raj, you've got one authored and in the queue that's coming soon. We're going to continue to pod around this topic. So get involved with the ONUG collaborative, find out more about it, go to onug.net and click on the collab button. And then don't forget ONUG Spring, what I say, May 17th and 18th in Dallas. It's going to be fantastic in the spring 2023. So be there. And thanks again to everybody. We'll see you next time on the ONUG podcast. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Raj.
Thanks, Mark.